So the Champions League group stage draw has officially been announced. We have some very interesting quarterfinals, and I'm pretty excited to dissect all these fixtures. Comment down below with your predictions for these fixtures. Like the video if you end up enjoying, and subscribe if you're new. Let's get straight into things with Atletico Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund. Now this fixture, honestly, I'm pretty excited about it. I think it could be a pretty solid matchup between two sides who would really love to make it towards the semis. Obviously, one of them will get through, but that's just one two-legged tie away from the finals. And obviously, both sides have been to the final. Neither side won in the final within the last decade, but both sides have been, competitive therein about Champions League consistently. But, this season, league form, neither side are at their, very best, I'd say. Atletico Madrid, they aren't competing for the title really this season whatsoever. Neither are Dortmund. So my predictions for this tie, honestly, I have a feeling that Atletico Madrid's going to get through. I would just ask for a solid tie for this one. Honestly, I just want to see some good goals, some good Champions League moments, and some back and forth competitive spirit from both sides, which I'm sure we will get in loads and loads. I'm going to predict a 3-2 Atletico Madrid win after two ties. It might even go to extra time, but I don't think this one will go to penalties. Obviously, Atletico Madrid had to go to penalties against Inter in their previous tie, so I think this could be a very solid one. I think we could see some proper fireworks, and honestly, I'm excited for this one, all things considered. This side of the, bracket will end up having to face the winners of this next tie, and honestly, I think it's the easier of the two sides. The other side is far more ruthless, but the next tie is Barcelona versus PSG. This is Kylian Mbappe's final go-around with PSG in the Champions League, so it's his final chance to potentially win it with the French side. I don't think they will win it this season, but they have a darn good chance of getting through should they beat Barcelona, because obviously Atletico or Dortmund would be up next, and that's not to necessarily diminish the quality of those clubs. But I feel like Barca, post Xavi announcing he's leaving, have found themselves in a decent groove. Obviously, getting through to the quarterfinals was pretty solid for Barca. Napoli had a decent kind of go at it, but they didn't necessarily pose the most meaningful threats at the end of the day. Barca managed to scrape through, and likewise for PSG and the Real Sociedad tie. Obviously, this is a fairly notable tie in the sense that there have been two incredible previous ties in these legs in the Champions League. Obviously, the 6-5 aggregate score after two legs in 2017 was absolutely ridiculous. The Barcelona comeback after two legs was brilliant. Then PSG kind of got their vengeance back in 2021 with a 5-2 victory over Barca over two legs, and that's just brilliant. That's what you love to see in the Champions League. Two quality legs that provide total drama, spectacle, and amazement. Honestly, these are two sides that I would imagine are favorites should they get through, and should they go into the semifinals. My prediction, honestly, I'm gonna say PSG, and I know I'm wearing a Barca kit right now, but I have a feeling that my predictions will be wrong. I mean, if you looked at my Premier League predictions this season, you'll know that they are, God knows where they are. They are just so off the mark. So my predictions aren't necessarily the most accurate, but I do think PSG will get through probably on like a 5-4 aggregate score. I could see this being an absolute rip-roaring game like the last couple ties. Well, rip-roaring tie, I should say, not a game. It's two games, two legs. But I do think the semifinals on the side of semifinal one, or the first side of the bracket, I should say, will be Atletico Madrid versus PSG. And I'll quickly just predict that one to predict who will get to the final on that side. I think it's going to be PSG. I think Mbappe is going to hit into his stride. I think they have a lot of quality players around them, and Should they beat Barca? I mean, they're up against Atleti, who won't be easy opposition whatsoever. Very hard to face off against in cup matches, in the Champions League, in the Europa League. It doesn't go too swimmingly for other sides when they're facing off against Atletico Madrid, because they're that brilliant defensively. Obviously, some people don't love that, but I do think that semifinal will probably end with like a 2-1, maybe even go to penalties, but PSG will get through and beat in the final. On the opposite side of the bracket, we have Arsenal versus Bayern Munich, and man, oh man, this fixture is promising a lot. Arsenal are arguably the most on-form team in Europe. They have been absolutely brilliant since really the turn of the year. Nothing has stopped Arsenal short of themselves, and even then, they haven't stopped themselves. It's been brilliant. Bayern, obviously, kind of weird season for them. You know, they're far behind Xavi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen. Obviously, you know, season's not done. There's still probably 5-6 more games that Leverkusen would have to win to confirm themselves as Bundesliga champions for the 23-24 season. But as far as Bayern's expectations go, this is far below what they are used to. You know, they are used to winning the league year on year. It is, you know, one of those things I think will add fuel to the fire for them. And I think that they could be really, you know, amped up for this. At the time recording this, Harry Kane broke the record for the most goals scored in a debut season in the Bundesliga. He also has 40 goals and assists in about 26 appearances so far in the Bundesliga this season, which is absolutely mental. I mean, I think he's got 31 goals, 9 assists, something like that. It's been a brilliant season for Kane. And I think he's really the deciding factor here. As great as Arsenal have been, as wonderful as, you know, their play has been, Bayern is a very experienced side. They have some world-class players in there. Musiala, they have Kane, obviously. Thomas Muller, don't let him, you know, fly under the radar, because that man could still ball at like 34, 35, I think he is. He's still playing fantastically. Obviously, the likes of Gnabry, Sané, even youngsters like Tell, I think, are promising and could make an impact in later phases of this tie. My prediction is that this is going to be an entertaining one as well. But I do think Bayern Munich will get through, because honestly, I think that they're going to want it more at the end of the day, and there'll be no pressure on Kane. There'll only be motivation for him to perform to his best against the Arsenal. Obviously, you know, former Spurs player, arguably the best Spurs player of the Premier League era. You know, there's other people that are worth considering, but if he's not first, he's second or third, and that's for sure. So Kane, he's going to have a lot of motivation going into this, and I think he is going to absolutely light it up in this tie. I'm going to predict, let's say, a 3-3 draw after 2 legs that goes on to penalties, with Bayern winning on penalties. And the final tie of the Champions League quarterfinals will be Real Madrid versus Manchester City. This is going to be a bloodbath, as they say. I mean, let's be honest. This was such a brilliant tie about, I think, in the last 2 seasons when we've seen them. I think this is, 22, 23, and 2024. We've seen them face off now. Well, even in 2020 they face off. So this is like the 4th time in 5 years that we're seeing this tie. You know, in the first iteration of it, well, not the first, but back in 2022, there was obviously the wonderful 6-5 after extra time aggregate score over 2 legs. That was brilliant. The one where Rodrigo scored right at the death. I think that this tie will provide us with similar kind of fanfare and similar kind of just drama. You know, I think that both sides are going to really go after it, because let's be real, whoever wins this tie I think that they are arguably just straight up the favorites for it, right? There's not, obviously there's very serious opposition facing you in the semis, you know, in either Arsenal or Bayern, should you get through if you're Real Madrid or City. But let's be real. Real Madrid and City are the two most well-oiled machines in world football. They have every lever, mechanism, pulley, accessory, tool, apparatus at their disposal to succeed, and they do. That being said, I think Real Madrid will get through this tie, probably like a 5-4, maybe a 4-all, and then penalties. You know what? I'm gonna go against the grain. I'm gonna say that this ends up being 2-all after 2 legs, and then Real Madrid will win it 3-2 after extra time in the final leg. We'll see Bellingham score the winner for that. Let's say, you know, just because why not? Let's predict that too. So that would mean that the second semifinal on the opposite side of the bracket would be, in my personal opinion, my predictions, Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. Obviously, on the opposite side, it'll be Atletico Madrid and PSG. So, who do I think is going to get through, Bayern Munich or Real Madrid, in that second semifinal? Well, I think it's going to be Bayern missing out. Sorry, I don't know why I set it up like that. I was going to say Real Madrid, and then I said Bayern. But Real Madrid will get through in that semifinal, I think. Probably like 3-1 after 2 legs, aggregate score. And then the final, PSG versus Real Madrid. I mean, I think I'm going to have to go with Real Madrid to win it all. Once again, I think it will be quite the spectacular meetup. You know, PSG having Mbappe, him kind of bowing out and having basically his final game against the club, with Real Madrid, the side he's going to end up joining. And Real Madrid probably winning that, say, 2-1 after the final whistle in that one. So no extra time in the final is my prediction. Real Madrid to win it 2-1 against PSG. And yeah, those are my predictions, my thoughts on these ties. Some wonderful, wonderful ties. Might end up doing Europa League predictions because some brilliant ties in that one as well. Even the Conference League is looking kind of spicy. I mean, Olympiacos versus Fenerbahce is absolutely mental. But thank you guys and gals so much for joining me throughout this video. Like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and comment down below with your thoughts on these ties. Who do you think is going to get through to the semis? Who do you think is going to get through to the finals? And who do you think is going to win the 23-24 Champions League? Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.